Welcome to the Auric Investigators Podcast with Vicki a mutant 4/6 emotional generator with a line 1 motivation, and Lauren Wenzel, a collective 5/1 mental projector. Join us as we deep dive into off the beaten path subjects. But be careful, because we might just make you think, or even better, burst a few outdated bubbles around what you've been led to believe is truth. Agree or disagree, it's okay, because we have nothing to prove. So let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Auric Sleuths. I'm your co-host, Vicki and here's my beautiful co-host, Lauren Wenzel. She's actually going to be interviewing me today on some health cursors that are found within your human design charts between your waking chart and your sleeping chart. So with that, I'm going to be quiet and let you ask all the questions, Lauren.
So hello, everyone. Today is a very interesting episode that we are going into. This is kind of a tangent off our dream episodes that we started to get into. And this rabbit hole has really been unfolding from this. So in our dream course, in our human design dream course, we had mentioned in the other episodes as well, when we found a certain gate that wasn't in our waking charts, but in our dream charts, those were what we termed our Achilles heel. And it was an even greater conditioner that showed up. But as Vicki has really been researching this, she has found this tied to all these health precursors, and you just can't make this stuff up. It's so fascinating. And she has gathered not only like people who are reaching out to her to see their Achilles heel gates with their own health concerns, but also she was digging into celebrities who mostly aren't here anymore and their Achilles heel gates and all the symptoms. So let's get into the first one, Vicki. And what did you find with that?
Okay. Well, first of all, I do want to say, for those listening, you're not going to be able to see what I actually have on screen. But if you go to our YouTube channel, Auric Sleuths, you could see the actual video of what I'm showing. So, I'll first start off and say it started with the Achilles heel gates, which, as you said, are gates that people will have in the sleeping chart, but not in the waking chart. And then from there, I started noting patterns with vulnerable gates where people had splits, or gates where people might have a lot of different activations. So it just kind of kept snowballing for me. But one of the things, and today we're going to pretty much stick with the Achilles heel gates. One of the things I've done, and unfortunately you can't kind of prove this theory on people who aren't sick, and it's kind of in hindsight, but if people take it seriously, and from the day you are born, and you look at your sleep chart and you look at your waking chart and you see where your vulnerabilities lie, and you do your best to live your life in alignment with your human design, or at least pay attention to what some of these things are, I think we could, dramatically improve our health. And what started it for me was I went to the doctor a couple of years ago, and she told me I had a fatty liver, and she told me I had no vitamin D production. And I was complaining because my skin was getting loose and I had a patch of psoriasis on my back. And so she just gave me some medical advice for all of it. Well, when I started studying this, I saw that my Achilles heel was gate 5, and that was theanine. And when I looked up theanine, it said an overproduction of theanine in your body can result in a fatty liver, a depletion of vitamin D, skin diseases such as psoriasis and eczema, And it can even result in creepy skin. And I just went, oh my God, like that was a smoking gun to me. And within our class, we just kind of went down this rabbit hole and over again started finding things. So I went through, and our first person that we have up is Robin Williams, and he committed suicide upon receiving the Lewy body Alzheimer's diagnosis. So when I went into his sleep chart and his waking chart, he had Achilles heel gate 62, and that is tyrosine. And when you go down and you research tyrosine, it has to do with the brain and the thyroid. And then I'm just going to, do some highlights here. It's very important for brain health because your body uses tyrosine to make brain chemicals such as dopamine, which can influence mental health. So right there was a precursor for the possibility of mental health. Does that mean he was absolutely going to get Alzheimer's? Not necessarily, but it is a precursor in his charts. Did you have any specific questions on him or?
Well, something that I noticed is he has all three gates off his ajna going up to his crown. Like I've never seen that before, that's like the amplification of attracting in the gates of madness and then having that Achilles heel gate on top of that.
Oh yeah, that completely open head and
yeah.
the gates of madness leading right up to it. I mean, and he was in his head big time.
I mean, he's so brilliant at the same time, but I think that's a really important key is like when people really take on their design and experiment, these things might not even show up with the health concerns too. But if somebody's kind of like struggling, just to like reference this as well and see what can actually support. So for example, it could be like getting a specific amino acid or taking a supplement. I mean, you really have to follow your inner strategy and inner authority. We're not health practitioners, like specialists. This is not something that we are, saying to override anyone's, medical choices at all. Like we need to make that very clear because we're just presenting this as investigators and researchers to help anybody who's interested, who is getting that pull to look into their dream chart and see if they have a specific gate that's showing up in the dreams. If they're, experiencing maybe some discomfort with their health.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will tell you, because several people, typically when you go to doctors, they will not do a full amino acid panel or a full vitamin panel. There's certain things that they look for. And, I'm starting to come to the conclusion of why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we looking at this? Because, disease, the root of disease. And if we look here and we can say what goes back to the root more than your actual energetics from the day you were born. And I know a lot of people, when I do their charts and they'll come up, they'll go, oh my God, Vicki, I just got diagnosed with MS, or I have this problem, or I have psoriasis just like you and fatty liver. What should I do? And I'm like, I cannot tell you what to do. Now, I will tell you, I've been doing a lot of healing through stepping in alignment with my PHS and my open digestion, but also in, using my pendulum and muscle testing. And it has led me to certain different things, including I just learned about cell salts. So now I'm learning about that. So, but yes, we are not doctors and cannot give it medical advice, but we are showing you where to look, where there's the possibility that you could take this to your doctor and say, hey, here we go. So,
right. And if you, depending on your doctor or how you take care of yourself, and PHS is the primary health system in human design. And me and Vicki are currently going through this system, really getting the education, and our teacher, Raquel Reina, it's called the 4 radical transformations. And so when you really align to how you are meant to be health-wise in your design, it is said your reality significantly shifts and changes. Yeah. Because your body, your intelligence, it's not conscious, it's just a knowing, can turn on more. And then there's less thinking, like the monkey madness and the monkey thinking and all the conditioning, and things just are in alignment and flow with you.
Yeah, it's been amazing since working with my PHS, the things that are starting to open up and to come online with us. And we'll absolutely have to do a podcast on that at some point in time. I did want to bring up with Robin Williams that I did read several articles that stated tyrosine is now being used to help people with Lewy body. And it didn't say that the low levels or increased levels would cause the disease, but I think an argument can be made that if an amino acid is needed for the brain, and the lack of this amino acid, as well as the potential for others, you know, the healing factor, it could absolutely be a contributing factor. Now, the next one I did was Michael J. Fox. And this one, Michael J. Fox actually has 2 Achilles heel gaits. And one of the things I've noticed is that the more Achilles heel gaits you have, the more severe illness seems to be, and the younger it seems to come on with people, especially if they're living out of alignment with who they're really supposed to be, or other factors. It could be trauma. It could be so many things. But with Michael J. Fox, his was isoleucine, and it says right in there, deficiencies may result in muscle loss. And isoleucine is all about muscles. And then if you go down to the theanine, it says low theanine is linked to Parkinson's disease. Like I have a high theanine. He has low. Oh, there's an echo in there. He has low theanine, and it's linked to Parkinson's disease, and is recognized as an immunostimulant promoting the growth of the thymus gland. And so Parkinson is all about the dysregulation, I believe, of the thymus gland. So when you have 2 Achilles heel gaits, you can see how the possibility can manifest with, you know, this disease much younger. So the next one was Bruce Willis, and he is also Lewy body.
I had a question really quick, Vicki. Have you noticed with Achilles heel gaits if there's a difference between if it shows up black or red, like I have conscious or unconscious?
Yeah, I have not noticed. I have not gotten that far down the rabbit hole yet, but that's absolutely something that I should look at and see. Have you noticed anything as we're talking?
So I kind of have a feeling, and I kind of noticed that with the unconscious ones, it's a little bit more intense. It shows up a little bit more severe because it is so unconscious with the red. And it just kind of manifests in its own way. Whereas a black gate, somebody might be a little bit more conscious, even though they're being conditioned in that way. Their mind might think it's related. I don't know. But did Robin Williams, was his gate unconscious off the 62? Yeah.
Well, yeah. It was, unconscious. Mm-hmm. And you know what? We were just talking about about Robin Williams' open head and the 3 crazy making gates leading right up to it. Mm-hmm. Michael J. Fox, he's got the same pattern.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I didn't even notice that. Wow.
And his 19 is unconscious, and his 5 is also unconscious. So absolutely. Yeah. So we're learning stuff even as we go through this podcast.
Right. It's fascinating. So who do we have next?
We have Bruce Willis next. And it's so sad for everybody, whether you're a star or just your normal everyday human walking down the street. But people seem to, notice when it happens to, movie stars or famous people more. But his is gate 19 and gate 28. And isoleucine this has to do with the BCAA levels, and basically BCAA levels are a combination of isoleucine, leucine, and valine. And so they're saying that, a mutation of your BCAA levels are associated with increased risk of dementia and Alzheimer's disease. And there have not been any studies examining the effect of the individual BCAAs on cognition and Alzheimer's pathology. However, one study has found that a genetic predisposition to increase isoleucine is positively associated with Alzheimer's disease. So yeah, very sad. And again, could you just look at this chart and say, oh, you're open for this? No, but you could say, look, if I live my life in alignment, or if I pay attention to, anything that is showing up or what have you, but it is giving you, and especially if you have like a history of Alzheimer's disease in your family, or you have a history of, any disease within there, is you can look in here and see what your Achilles heel or your vulnerable gates are. Another thing I want to bring up with Bruce Willis is look at how active his dream state is. Like he had a lot of conditioning going on from the dream state into, his waking chart. So
yeah, he has 10 activations. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. He has 10 activations in his dreaming. He's only has 2 defined centers. And then I think his Achilles heel gates are also unconscious again. I'm seeing this pattern. There's like this openness and then the unconscious gates in the dream. Right? Wow,
incredible. So yeah, I'm definitely now. Damn it, I have another rabbit hole to go down. Okay, so now we go into his gate 28, which is aspartic acid. And this has to do a lot with your RNA metabolism, immune system function. And so basically RNA, it's, and this is a very pre-kindergartner explanation of how DNA works, but DNA basically says, this is the recipe I need to be healthy. And then the RNA goes out and it goes into the body and it gets everything that it needs and it makes the recipe for that amino acid and then brings it back to the DNA. When the recipe is off, the DNA is not getting exactly what it needs. So if your body is deficient in certain vitamins and minerals or other amino acids that are needed, and the recipe is wrong for a long enough time, it can create mutations that can turn into disease. So yes, and it says, aspartic acid, it helps sharpen the mind by increasing combinations of a chemical in the brain, which is necessary for proper mental functioning. So again, high levels of aspartic acid have been found in the brains of those with Alzheimer's disease. So he has kind of a perfect storm here. And then
I had one question. So did he recently get diagnosed? Because I think I had read something. And then I also am wondering with profile, do we see a theme with profile? Because I know with the line 6, certain themes show up for them based on different stages of their life. But I'm wondering if there's a theme with profile, if something shows up just from birth. Like for me, mine just showed up straight up from birth, or if certain things turn on later in life based on profile and linked to the line 6 in particular.
I think it depends on how bad the mutation is coming in, because, the DNA mutations are passed down through genetics. And so I know you were born with some definite issues with the muscles in your legs, which went back to gate 42, which was, remind me. they're not theremin,
Leucine.
leucine,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, not being a doctor, I don't know, but it could just been that the mutation was so bad by the time it got to you, or perhaps your mother's diet was, not good or what have you. I know you were able to build your health back up from that, but most of the people I've been looking at are people who were, middle-aged or above, where these diseases started showing up. So, but when I look, let's see, Robin Williams is a 2.5. Michael J. Fox is a 2.4. Bruce Willis is a 1.3. So nothing so far, but definitely. I knew as I started down this path, like it was going to open up to new things. And so when you're first starting and you're seeing this, you just kind of go down one track. And then things started opening up for me. I started seeing the vulnerable gates. And then I started seeing the more Achilles heel gates that you have, the worse it is. So I'm sure other things are opening up, and then spirit is leading me down pathways to different types of, modalities, healing modalities, those types of things. So it's, like I said, it's unraveling right now for me. The next one is David Ladner. This was Squiggy from Laverne and Shirley. And he had multiple sclerosis, and he actually had 3 Achilles heel gates, the 8, the 12, and the 53. And let's see, the 8 was subconscious, the 12 was subconscious, and the 53 was subconscious. So all subconscious gates within the dream realm that he did not have in his waking. So he had multiple sclerosis. The first one, again, phenylalanine, which is, I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's the brain, and it has to do with the white matter disease of the brain, which that's what multiple sclerosis is. And the creation of dopamine. So, and they're actually looking, studies are underway for the treatment of MS. And, it's funny because I'm looking at this and these diseases come up, and then you do studying and it says studies are underway for the treatment of MS. And so you kind of look at this and say, okay, maybe doctors don't really know that much about the DNA or how it works. And that needs to, open up more into medicine, because my doctor there's an assumption, and it's probably a bad assumption, that a doctor would know about how amino acids work in your body. They would understand DNA and the RNA process and the synthesis of it. So maybe that's part of it. Another thing here is he has gate 12, which gate 12 is a stop code. And a stop code it tells the amino acids or the RNA process when to stop making a certain thing. Again, very elementary understanding of it, but I am finding that people have stop codes and multiple Achilles heel gates. Their symptoms are much worse. And then he has gate 53, which is serine. And serine is kind of scary. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. But again, serine is all about, it sends signals to the brain. It affects the autonomic nervous system. And serine has been found to link to MS, and the studies are ongoing. So a lot of this research seems to be in its infancy.
This is so fascinating. Like, I just always call Vicki Dr. Vicki now.
No, do not call me Dr. Vicki. I don't know anything about health. What my body sees are patterns.
Mm-hmm.
My body sees, I have outer vision, and without even knowing it, I could just go, something's not right here, or I'm seeing something, and I go down this rabbit hole until I figure out what it is. And I could drive myself crazy doing it, but it's the seeing of the patterns.
You know what I kind of noticed just now as you're going through the different charts is I had a client I went over his dream type and his waking. I think he had 1 or 2 Achilles heels, but he was the same type in the dream and the waking. And he's done a lot of work. So the symptoms didn't show up as much. I think you might be even more susceptible if your aura type changes in the dream. Because if your aura type is consistent, you have a little bit of a buffer. It kind of supports you more, because my mom has the same Achilles heel in the dream Rave as I do, but she's a generator when she's sleeping and when she's awake. So she doesn't have those same symptoms, or it's not intense.
Yeah. No, anytime you have, the more gates you have, the more Achilles heel you have. If you go from being a generator to being a reflector, like all of these things, it creates some vulnerabilities in us. So yes, absolutely. I have a friend, she's actually like you, she's a mental projector. She becomes a generator in her sleep. And so this poor girl she has to work really hard for her energy during the day. And then she goes to sleep and she can't even sleep, because the minute she lays her head down, she starts creating energy and she can't sleep. And that cannot be good for your health.
She could work in her sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Well, another thing, she's indirect.
Oh, okay.
So I think she's also nocturnal. And like she said, as a kid, she could stay up all night. So, but of course, life has kind of taken that out of her, and she's just now starting her deconditioning process. So, but getting back to Squiggy, he also has leucine, which is all about the muscle and muscle weaknesses. And they are finding that leucine does have to do with multiple sclerosis. So I just find all of this fascinating. I hope other people do too. And then here's Jerry Springer. And he had age date 38 and 53. And let's see, 53 is subconscious and 38 is subconscious. Wow, Lauren, you found another pattern there. And let's see. He died of pancreatic cancer. And so when you look up arginine, a recent study suggests that methyltransference, that's the RNA process on arginine, is a contributing factor to glutamine metabolism in pancreatic cancer. I mean, it's right there. So, and then you go down to serine, and it says aberrant serine production is a central cause in the development of cancer. And I told you, like, serine is kind of scary to me because it's one of the top 3 amino acids that are in our body. But what happens with serine is they're finding that cancer loves to feed off of serine. And what serine has had a mutation that if the cancer eats up all the serine, they're finding that it self-produces. And it self-produces and the cancer keeps eating it. So the faster it's producing, the more the cancer's eating. So now they're trying to look at ways to, starve cancer by figuring out a way to turn off serine production. So, and again, I don't know how that works, but there it is again, right there, arginine, pancreatic cancer. And you've got it in 2 different places. You got the serine with cancer and then, the pancreas with the arginine. So. And then Olivia Newton-John, she had breast cancer. She did not have any Achilles heel gates, but she had vulnerable gates in that she had gate 15, which she had 3 activations in her sleep and 2 activations in her waking. But the line numbers that they were in, she had a 6, a 3, a 3, and a 6. And the 6 and the 3 all get along great together, but not the 4. So there's a disharmony between the line 4 and 6s and 3s. So there was a disharmony there that I caught. And so that was her gate 15. And gate 15 is Serene. She died of breast cancer. And again, Serene is all about cancer. And let's see. Well, let's see. For her, that Achilles heel gate was 15. So in her waking, she had it twice. Obviously, one was some. So she had it in her design twice and her personality 3 times. But the 4 was in, let me see, the 15-4. Yeah, that was in subconscious in her waking chart. So interesting. And then last is George Michael's, and his Achilles heel gates are 12 and 20. Again, both subconscious or both design. And he died of cardiomyopathy, the weakening of the heart muscle, with myocarditis, again, another muscle within the heart, a weakening of that, and fatty liver. Well, he had gates 12 and 20. Gate 12 is loose, or gates 20 is leucine, which that's all about muscle. And it can show up as muscle weakness, and it can also, issues with it can result in a need for a liver transplant. So he had the fatty liver, and then he had the weakening of the 2 heart muscles. Then when you go down a little bit, again, this is the association between the BCAAs I told you about, the combination of the isoleucine, leucine, and valine. Those lead to cardiovascular disease. So, and they're still looking at it, but it has something to do with serine and threonine protein kinases. So again, I don't even know what kinases is. I'm just showing you the pattern. But another thing I wanted to show you with George Michael's is he died of the heart issue and the fatty liver. Like a lot of people will say, oh, well, he partied a lot, da, 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 da. Well, again, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get these things, but if you live a hard lifestyle and you're not eating healthy and you're not living a healthy lifestyle, the more you succumb to having these issues. Also, even though it's not a Achilles heel for, or actually it is an Achilles heel for him, is the gate 12. That's the terminator. And remember I said, when you have that terminator, it seems to, and it makes things worse. At least it seems to. And I don't know how old he was when he died, but here's something else I wanted to bring up for you is his sister. And I could not find his sister's chart because it's nowhere online and I couldn't even find a birth date, but he died on Christmas Day. I don't remember what year, but a year later on Christmas Day, his sister died in bed also from complications of blood sugar levels having to do with what do you call it? Ice. Oh my gosh, I can't think of the word right now. Where you have to take insulin shots. What's that called, Lauren? Come on.
Diabetes.
Thank you. Oh my God, diabetes. Yeah. So yeah, they come from the same family. And so obviously they're going to have a lot of genetics that overlap. And he dies of the fatty liver and the muscle. And exactly 1 year later, she dies of diabetes. I just thought that was a very interesting connection. I wish I could have found her chart to kind of look at them and compare them. I didn't have it. So that's what I had. I kind of stopped there. It gets depressing after a while. Like at first it's really exciting because it was like, oh my gosh, look what I found. Where am I going to go with this? But then after a while, it's just, it's been there since Rob brought human design to us. And where do we go from here? Do we get the word out? Will people pay attention? Because
right. And you know what I noticed, Olivia Newton-John also had those 3 ajna gates going up to the head too.
did you?
Yeah, so that's showing up 3 times in your research with these people. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I don't necessarily see the pattern with the Cancer, but it is interesting that, I think people who have those crazy making gates, because I know how crazy making I can make myself, spending a lot of time in your head like that cannot be good for your body, because these people are always worrying about things, and they're in the past, they're in the future, they're questioning themselves, so especially if they have not deconditioned. So you're right. So that's 3 people that
and I've read a lot of charts. I've never seen a chart that had the three gates off the ajna going up to the crown. It's very interesting.
Open self or open G center. I want to scroll back up and look. Okay, Robin Williams had an open G center with that open head. And so did Michael J.
Wow, both completely open.
Yeah, and a lot of times completely open. People with that open G center are always trying to find themselves. And they do go into acting a lot of times. So
because they can transform. They're the chameleons. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
And then Bruce Willis, he's kind of always played the same type of part.
Yeah.
And his is defined. So this is just so fascinating. And, sharing this information, obviously we don't want to scare anybody or cause anybody to go into a panic. It's just a good reference to really understand like your DNA. Like, how amazing is this? Like, what a gift to be in your inner authority with something you can reference if anything's coming up, and then making those aligned decisions moving forward. If you're coming up against bitterness or frustration or, anything else.
Yeah. And, it's Ross said it, and Joe Dispenza said it too, as well, many people have, is our body has the ability to heal itself. So if we have this roadmap right from the beginning that says, hey, this is where your strengths and your weaknesses are, how important is it for us to live in alignment with the way we're supposed to eat and learn our body graph and start living in alignment with who we are. So, and there's so much disease in our world right now. And especially, my digestion is open, and that's all about eating organic in-season foods and, I eat a lot of things in season, but I also eat a lot of things over and over again. Like I found it's just so funny when you learn about things and you go back and you go, oh my gosh, I've done this my whole life. I'll make a big pot of something, eat it for 4 or 5 days, but I don't have closed digestion. But when my body says no to something, it's like, no. Like I was one of those kids that if your mom says you eat that, I couldn't eat it. And if it was forced down me, it came right back up. Like my body shut down. So I'm learning that helps me also with my inner authority a lot, because I am emotional. But when my body has that shutdown, it's like, okay, no, absolutely not. So, and you are closed down. So, or you're closed digestion. So.
Yeah. So we're the same color, but our arrows are just in different directions. And, I don't know if I ever told you this. I actually had surgery on my pancreas when I was 27. They found a cyst like randomly. So this is like tied to the leucine. And then when I started my journey of really like learning my design, the universe just kept giving me these different things to take. So it's like, okay, you're going to do this and you're going to heal this and you're going to focus on this. And it's just been this path and roadmap ever since. And then I noticed like I've been able to release weight easily more. For the longest time, it was so hard for me and I couldn't understand why. It's because I was in my not self and still repeating certain not self themes. It was harder to release trauma. And so now incorporating, meditation, healing practices, human design and how I'm made to take in life and stuff. I mean, I feel like you can really heal yourself and what the universe is bringing you. And sometimes I'll be taking a supplement or certain things for a while and just kind of like with my digestion, like being closed, it's like going to be picking a specific thing. And then when I'm done, I'm done. And then the universe brings me something else for that season for however long I need to take it.
Yeah. And, you just brought up, something else for me to look at. It's like you said, the pancreatic issues were tied to the leucine, which they absolutely are. So you look at like Jerry Springer here, is he had arginine, which is a contributing factor to pancreatic cancer. But if you look in here, even though it wasn't an Achilles heel gate for him, he has the gate 20, which is leucine, twice in sleep and twice in waking. So again, that if not living in alignment or what have you, that could absolutely, I would think, could be an additional contributing factor. So yeah, absolutely. So gosh darn it, another freaking rabbit hole. And then let's see. Yeah, he did have the serine. Serine is all about cancer. So
are you noticing certain Achilles heel gates and their amino acids that show up if like in combination, is it more like deadly?
I have not found any patterns of specific amino acids, but I have found that the more Achilles gates a person has, the worse their symptoms seem to be, especially like you have 2 or 3 Achilles heel gates and then you have like a stop codon in there. It seems to really be bad. My girlfriend, she has recently diagnosed with some dementia and MS, and her muscles are just, going off the roof. Now, for her, the trauma came because she had an NDE, and during the NDE, brain damage. And so she knew she had some problems, mental issues she knew she had, but those kind of morphed into, much stronger over the years. It kind of shows up as white spots on the CAT scans, and the white spots are getting more. And now the MS, and her muscles will just like go off for hours. So, so yeah, that's where her trauma came in. And then she also had some other trauma growing up. So again, can I pinpoint exactly what it is? No, but I can tell you she had some very devastating things that went on in her life. And now she has a sister from the same parents, and the sister is completely healthy and doesn't have problems, and her mother, 20 something years older than her, she now is getting sick, but 20 years after her own daughter, who, she didn't have the NDE. So, it's whether or not you get it or not, a big factor is the way you live your life and, what trauma that you have. There's a lot of different things that could go on with it. So.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Are you still taking volunteers to read their charts to see their Achilles heel gates?
Yeah, absolutely right now. And it's just for a basic, chart to pretty much like this. It's not a full report and a reading or what have you. But yes, that is free. It's on my website, youruniquedesign.com, and that's unique, YOUNIQUE. So youruniquedesign.com, and right under the homepage, you could click the link to get your free assessment. And again, I can't make any promises because they come in batches. So I can only do as many as I can, but I will try and get to as many that I can as possible.
Awesome. So. And we'll put the details in the episode too.
Yeah, so absolutely. Oh yeah, in the write-up. And I did want to say, I had a girlfriend reach out to me the other day, and she went to her doctor upon these findings, and she told the doctor, I want a full amino acid panel. And the doctor, she actually lives in Canada, and the doctor got very upset with her and said, that's a waste of the taxpayers' money, and I'm your doctor, and I tell you what you need. You don't tell me what you need.
Wow.
Another gal came to me, and I gave her report, and she came back and she said, you know what? This is absolutely on. I just had a full amino acid panel, and this is exactly what I've been working on for the past several months. She was very sick. She actually had 3 amino acid gates and a stop codon, and she had been sick for years. And so I said, oh, you have a doctor that actually gave you an amino acid panel? She said, no, absolutely not. I found my own healer who he healed himself through amino acids, and now I'm working through him.
Wow.
And he has, a company that he works with, but this is exactly right on with what I'm dealing with. So
that's amazing. Health to me is so important. I have a lot of stories and experiences with health, the healthcare system, doctors. Just from my own personal experience of not getting the help I needed, the healing I needed from Western medicine, and then witnessing with my dad too. And I believe we were brought this intel and information to revolutionize and give people the freedom and the correct knowledge and their inner power back. Because for somebody to take that away from somebody else and say, I know better than you about your own body and your own health, that to me personally is ethically not okay. Everybody has free will, and to have a doctor that supports your curiosity and wanting to do the research, or if it's not harming somebody, why not?
Yeah, the whole thing is just scary to me right now, because I look out at, I don't want to be one of those conspiracy theorists, but there's absolutely some truth to it. Big pharma is controlling our government. Our government allowing us to be poisoned, absolutely poisoned in our food. But if you go to different countries, they're not allowed to have all of these chemicals in their food. The Roundup and just all of it together. And then you look at something as basic as the building blocks of a human, which is your DNA codons and your amino acid, but nobody's looking at that.
Right.
They're looking at the symptoms. I'm a perfect example. You have this, and this, but if you would have Googled theranine, it would have been right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to say, oh my gosh, look, you have an overproduction. So I don't know. All I know is I found it. It's here. I'm willing to share my knowledge. And if anybody wants some information on it, please feel free to reach out.
And if anybody has experimented with amino acids, if they've taken their own health into their hands and found things that support them aligned with their design, we'd love to hear from you too and your shares, because this is what it's all about right now. It's taking back you're putting your health into your own hands as you're designed to, and what feels true and authentic to you, so you can heal, and not being profited in big pharma and just, putting a Band-Aid on a giant wound that needs to be healed from the root.
Yeah. And I think that's what we're trying to do is, you've got somebody that you got their arm cut off and you put a Band-Aid on it. It's not going to work. That's where we're getting. And people are getting more and more upset with modern medicine. So, okay. With that, let's end on a positive note. Thank you all so much for being here and listening to me go on. And thank you for your insightful questions and sending me on another rabbit hole, Lauren.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vicki, and all your research and presenting this fascinating just information that you've uncovered. And I know that we're just going to continue to investigate and see what else comes through and what we get to share via human design.
And with that, I will say bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hey, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, we absolutely love your feedback. So check out those links below and reach out with your insight, feedback, and even your ideas. And until next time, remember...
That's all, folks.